Welcome to the Kingdom Culture Podcast that was created on purpose with a purpose to empower, uplift, and guide others to the center of God's perfect will. Kingdom Culture family, welcome back to the Kingdom Culture Podcast. I hope you guys are all having an amazing week. So, we've gone through the heartbreak, we've gone through the healing, and now I'm in a season of remembering who I was before any of that happened. Who was God shaping me into? Right? What was my life like before all of the confusion and not remembering who I was, right? Before the marriage, before the heartbreak, before the healing became something I had to fight for, right? There was a version of me that a lot of people never met. Not because she was perfect, but because she was becoming, okay? Like lately I've caught myself asking, who was I before life got so loud? What did I want? Where was I heading, right? Not because I want to live in the past, but because sometimes we lose pieces of ourselves while we're busy surviving, right? And that's what I realized. I lost so many parts of me because I was in survival mode. Today isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who God was already shaping me into before fear, disappointment, and pain convinced me I had to become someone else, right? So before I got married, I lived alone in a little 2-bedroom apartment, okay? It was one of the quietest seasons of my life. Not because I had it all figured out or everything was easy, but because it was where I truly met God. It was just me and him. There was, that was the season where I stopped leaning on alcohol to cope. I started learning what worship actually meant. I was sharing my gym journey online before there was even a coaching business, right? So it was all these little minor steps that were happening. There wasn't a strategy. There wasn't a following. I simply wanted to encourage one person at a time. And truly looking back now, I think that that's where Kingdom Culture began because I was learning all of these things. I was learning to invest. I was taking risk. I was discovering discipline, right? But I got to tell you that the biggest lesson God was teaching me there had nothing to do with business, fitness, or my money. He was teaching me that my identity was never supposed to rest in a relationship. Not in being chosen, not in a title, not in achievements. Because my worth already belonged to him and it already does. My marriage wasn't the problem. Life has a way of adding responsibilities, disappointments, grief, and expectation if we're not careful, right? And because of that, we slowly drift from the person God was forming us into. And that's the season that I am in right now. It was like a hard pill to swallow to realize that my actions, my decisions, me wanting to rush into something is what led me to stop healing in God, right? Because one day you wake up and you realize you've been surviving instead of abiding. Let me say that again. One day you wake up and you realize you've been surviving instead of abiding. And that's what happened to me, right? And so I learned that this next season isn't about reinventing myself or leveling up to a different, bigger version of myself. It's about returning to the habits that kept me close to God in the first place. The discipline, right? The peace, the obedience, the listening, the woman God was already building. Because I know she's still here. She's just wiser now. And I also realized that when I listen and I don't rush and I don't act out of emotion and I allow myself to take a step back and think before I act, things end up happening where they all align and they fall right into where they need to be, right? So here are 4 things you can start doing today to help you get back to that. Number 1, spend 10 quiet minutes with God before you reach for your phone in the morning. Not to ask him anything, just to be with him. Because sometimes clarity isn't missing. We're just too distracted to hear it. Allow yourself to sit, to listen, and you'll get clarity on whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? Number 2, ask yourself one honest question. What have I been using to avoid feeling? Right? What have I been focused on to kind of avoid feeling what I need to move on? Maybe it's work, maybe it's social media, maybe it's a relationship. But healing truly begins the moment we stop running. Stop distracting yourself. Get in it and get through it. Number three, go back to the thing that brought you joy before you needed validation. Go back to the thing that brought you joy before you needed validation. For me, it was showing up at the gym and sharing my gym journey and starting this podcast and just helping other people and allowing myself to just be present, right? Back then I didn't have my son, but I'm learning that spending time with him and ignoring everything else is what brings me so much happiness. So that's what we've been doing. So what is that thing for you? You can do one small version of it today. Starting today, you can do that, right? You don't have to wait until this magical thing or feeling comes through. You can start today with these 4 little things, right? And number 4 for me, I journal a lot, right? So write one sentence that reminds you who God says you are. Journaling has been so healing for me. But yes, I still do that today. Every morning, I wake up, I pray, and I'm in my journal. Write one sentence that reminds you who God says you are. Now, not who your past says you are, not who your mistakes say you are, who God says you are. Read it every morning this week until it starts changing how you walk into your day and think about yourself. It'll help reshape your thinking about everything that you've gone through. If today's conversation reminded you of a version of yourself you've been missing, I want to encourage you with this. God doesn't waste seasons. All right? God never wastes anything. Not the ones that broke you, feel confused and overwhelmed. He never wastes a season, right? Because those moments can become the ones that deepen your faith. Those moments shape who you become later, right? Those moments are who build your character. So maybe you don't need a brand new identity. Maybe you just need to return to the rhythms that once kept you close to Him, at peace, in goodness, centered, right? Always know that I'm here for you. I would love to be part of your growth journey, because I know it's hard to do things alone. I know it's difficult to sit with everything, right? So if you need help with that, I'm here. Of course, I have my coaching business, but this is more about allowing you to be in community with the Lord. So don't forget that I love you, but that the Lord loves you more. Always, 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 always. And we'll see you guys next week. God bless.